Lieutenant Amy Brooks never imagined that wearing her grandmother's antique brooch to the diplomatic reception would change the course of galactic history. The Zenthari Empire had extended its first official invitation to humanity after decades of cold diplomatic silence, and Amy had been selected as part of the cultural exchange team aboard the Earth vessel Horizon Dawn because of her expertise in xenoanthropology and her calm demeanor under pressure. She had pinned the small silver brooch, shaped like a flower, to her dress uniform that evening, thinking it would add a personal touch to the otherwise sterile military attire and remind her of home. The Zenthari were a proud species, standing nearly 7 feet tall with luminescent skin that shifted colors based on their emotional states and crystalline eyes that seemed to pierce through any deception. When Ambassador Lyra approached Amy at the reception, her skin rippling with curious purple hues, the tall alien female stopped mid-sentence and stared at the brooch with an intensity that made Amy uncomfortable. Lyra reached out with a trembling hand and touched the small piece of jewelry with reverence, whispering something in her native tongue that the translation device struggled to interpret. Within hours, the situation escalated beyond anything the human delegation could have predicted. The Zenthari Council convened an emergency session and demanded to speak with Amy privately, which caused immediate concern among her superiors who feared a diplomatic incident. Captain Linda Hayes tried to intervene, but the Zenthari were insistent, and their normally composed demeanor had shifted to something that registered as desperate urgency on their color-shifting skin. Amy sat alone in a crystalline chamber facing a panel of 12 Zenthari elders whose skin pulsed with colors she had never seen. In the cultural briefings, Ambassador Lyra explained in halting but clear terms that the brooch Amy wore was not just a piece of jewelry but a fertility symbol from an ancient civilization that had seeded life across multiple galaxies, including both Earth and Zenthera, thousands of years ago. The symbol, when worn by a female in the presence of a compatible species during a lunar alignment which had occurred that very evening, created a biological bond that the Zenthari had not experienced in over 3 centuries. Amy felt her stomach drop as Lyra continued explaining that the bonding process had already begun, and that according to Zenthari biology and the ancient texts, Amy was now considered bonded to Lyra in a way that transcended species and would result in offspring. The human delegation went into crisis mode immediately. Commander Betty Wright, who led the medical team, ran every scan imaginable on Amy and confirmed that her body was undergoing changes that human science could not explain. Her cellular structure was adapting, incorporating elements of Zenthari DNA in a process that seemed both biological and something beyond current scientific understanding. The news spread through the ship like wildfire, and then to Earth Command, where officials debated whether this was a miracle of cosmic proportions or a potential threat to humanity. Amy herself sat in her quarters trying to process the reality that she was carrying a child, fathered by an alien woman, through a process that involved an antique brooch and cosmic timing that seemed too absurd to be real. Lyra visited her daily, bringing strange fruits and crystalline formations that she claimed would help with the bonding process, and speaking in soft tones about Zenthari culture and what it meant to be chosen by the ancient symbols. The ambassador explained that her people had been waiting generations for a sign that the old ways were not lost, and that the universe still held connections between species that went deeper than politics or war. Amy found herself drawn to Lyra, despite the impossible circumstances. The Zenthari female was gentle and thoughtful, spending hours answering Amy's endless questions about the process and about what their child might be like. Lyra's skin would shift to warm golden tones when she spoke about the future, and Amy realized that what had started as cosmic accident was becoming something neither of them had expected. The galactic community, however, was not taking the news well. The Kryn Consortium viewed the human Zenthari bonding as a potential power shift that could threaten their dominance in the outer sectors. The Trading Guild wanted to study Amy and offered enormous sums of credits for access to her medical data. Even Earth's own government was divided, with some seeing this as an opportunity for unprecedented alliance with the Zenthari, while others feared the implications of hybrid offspring that might possess abilities beyond human or Zenthari. Capability, security became a constant concern, as various factions attempted to either kidnap Amy for study or eliminate what they saw as an abomination against natural order. Captain Hayes assigned a full protection detail and moved Amy to secure quarters. But the stress of the situation was taking its toll. Amy's body continued to change in ways that fascinated and terrified the medical team. Her eyes began to show flecks of the crystalline quality that marked Xanthari genetics, and her skin occasionally flickered with faint color shifts when her emotions ran high. Dr. Karen Mills documented every change, with a mixture of scientific excitement and deep concern about what these transformations might mean for Amy's long-term health. Lyra remained constant through all of it, refusing to leave Amy's side, despite pressure from her own government to return to Xanthara and complete the bonding process in traditional surroundings. The ambassador had become something more than just the other parent of Amy's unborn child, and their late-night conversations in the observation deck revealed depths of connection that neither had experienced before. Amy learned about Lyra's childhood in the crystal cities of Xanthara, where she had trained from youth to become a diplomatic representative and had given up the possibility of family to serve her people. Lyra learned about Amy's love of ancient human history and her grandmother who had traveled the world collecting artifacts, never knowing that one small brooch would carry such cosmic significance. The pregnancy progressed faster than human gestation. Typically would within 3 months, Amy's body showed clear signs of advanced development, and the medical team detected a life form that defied all conventional understanding. The child possessed a dual-nature heart system combining both human and Xanthari physiology, and brain scans showed neural pathways that suggested cognitive abilities far beyond either parent species. As Amy entered what the Xanthari calculated as the final phase of development, the galactic attention reached a fever pitch. The Council of United Species called an emergency summit to discuss the implications of successful human Xanthari hybridization and whether it should be permitted to continue. Some species argued it was a natural evolution of galactic cooperation, while others claimed it violated the fundamental laws that kept species separate and stable. Amy watched the debates from her quarters, feeling like a specimen rather than a person. Lyra held her hand during the worst moments when the pressure seemed unbearable and whispered promises that no matter what the galaxy decided, they would protect their child. The moment of birth came during a solar storm that disrupted communications across the sector. Amy labored in the medical bay with only Dr. Mills and Lyra present as the rest of the crew dealt with the emergency repairs needed to keep the ship functioning. The child emerged in a cascade of light that filled the medical bay with colors that human eyes had never seen. She was perfect. The baby girl had Amy's features softened by Xanthari grace, with skin that glowed faintly in shades of cream and gold, and eyes that held both human warmth and crystalline depth. Lyra cried tears that sparkled like diamonds, and Amy held their daughter, with trembling hands, understanding that this small life represented something unprecedented in galactic history. They named her Hope, because it seemed the only word that captured what she meant to both of them and to the future they were building. Together, the galaxy's reaction to Hope's birth was immediate and polarized. Some species celebrated the proof that cross-species bonding was possible and natural. Others doubled down on their opposition, claiming that Hope was an anomaly that should never be repeated. But when images of the baby reached Earth and Xanthara simultaneously, both planets erupted in celebration. Humans who had feared the unknown saw in Hope's face a bridge to the stars. Xanthari, who had believed their ancient ways were dead, saw proof that the universe still held mysteries worth preserving. Amy stood in the observation deck, weeks after the birth, with Hope sleeping in her arms and Lyra's hand warm in hers. The political battles would continue, and there would be challenges ahead that neither of them could fully anticipate. But looking down at their daughter, who yawned and shifted colors in her sleep, Amy knew that wearing her grandmother's brooch that night had not been an accident. It had been the beginning of something the galaxy desperately needed, even if it did not know it yet. Hope represented the possibility that different species could not only coexist, but create something beautiful together. And as the stars stretched endlessly before them, Amy Brooks, former xenoanthropologist and now mother to the galaxy's most important child, smiled and whispered a promise to her daughter. The universe was vast and full of wonders, and Hope would grow up knowing that love could transcend any boundary, even the ones between worlds.